The guy that taught Ollie and I business, one of the things that he taught, I think was very crucial to, as far as my mind getting wrapped around what I could accomplish in this life, and never being confused about the result that I was creating. Again, I think a lot of the frustration comes from people waking up every day and going out there and trying to create something that's not there. And so one of the things that this guy taught, and this was back again in the early 90s, back before Robert Kiyosaki ever wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or the sequel to that book, Cash Flow Quadrant. But as far as income goes, there are two types of income. Two types of income. One being temporary, the other one being permanent. Temporary income is whatever it is you do to make money. If you stop doing that activity, your income stops. Now, I will tell you, Jim, as we grow up, that's how we're taught how to make money, right? Most of us are taught how to make money somewhere that falls under temporary income, self-driven income. And Robert Kiyosaki, a few years later, did write a book, Rich. How many of you guys have read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad? It's a great book. But the sequel to that book is called Cash Flow Quadrant. In that book, Robert Kiyosaki confirms that, yes, there is only two types of income, but of those two types of income, there are four ways, Andrew, to make it honest and legally in the United States of America. And so that's where he came up with the now infamous ESBI quadrant, right? He said of the four ways of making money in our country, we've got employees, we've got self-employed, we've got business owners, and we've got investors. Two of the ways of making money fall under temporary, which again means what? Whatever it is you do to make money, whether you're a big dog employee making a lot of money, or whether you're a doctor, lawyer, dentist, or whatever, insurance agent, real estate person, if you stop doing that activity, your income stops. Hence the term temporary, right? And on this side of the quadrant, which very few people exist, is something called permanent income. Definition, you guys already figured that out. Whatever it is you do to make money, you stop doing it, it keeps on coming in, right? So there's business owners that have that type of income, and then there's investors. Now the key thing to note over here is that what creates the passiveness of the income is that you're able to invest something. Business owners invest more of their time in developing a network. Investors invest more of their money, right? You guys know about that. We won't talk much about that today. But if I give you guys kind of a view now, kind of a 10,000-foot view of types of income, all of a sudden your mind, I'll tell you what my mind did. My mind said, wait a minute, here I am, I'm 25 years old, and I thought that to be successful, it wasn't types of income, I thought it was the amount of income you made. And so at 25 years of age in the golf industry, I was trying to work harder and harder and harder because, again, I was brought up, not that everybody ever really sat me down and said, this is exactly how to do it. It's just what I perceived. The people that are the most successful are the people that make the most what, Dan? Money. So it wasn't types of income I was taught, it was the amount of money. And then this guy that Ollie and I knew, he said, actually, the amount of money somebody makes, it's not an indicator of success at all. The amount of money somebody makes is an indicator of wealth. And there's a big difference between being wealthy and being successful. Wealthy meaning you have a whole lot of money. Successful meaning you still have some key parts to that process, right? And a lot of us like these key parts. Like we have our family, we have our health, we have some type of balance, you know. So there's a big difference between success versus wealthy. If you were to maybe close your eyes and think about the most wealthiest person you knew versus the most successful person, a lot of times they wouldn't be the same person. Okay, so I think a lot of times people are brought up to believe that in order to make it and be successful, they have to get in positions of making a lot of money. Now, do y'all think that there are some employees here in the greater Detroit area, people that work for somebody else? Do y'all think there are some employees that make a lot of money? Absolutely. Do y'all think there are some employees in the greater Detroit area, maybe car industry or whatever, that make over $500,000 a year being an employee? Okay, sure, absolutely. So can we make a lot of money being an employee? So employee is not a bad thing, right? You know, working for somebody else, we can get ourselves in a position, we can make a lot of money. Self-employed, okay? Because a lot of times people that don't make a lot of money, they say, well, the reason I'm not making a lot of money is because I'm working for somebody else. So they jump out of the frying pan into the what? Into the fire. So they go open up their own self-employed business. They go buy a truck and a trailer and get a lawnmower and a couple weed eaters, and they go into business for themselves, you know, as a landscaper or something like that. You know, you do have insurance people. How many of you guys started off in the insurance business part-time? You know, you work full-time, okay, absolutely. So in both of these areas, now, do you think there's some self-employed people that make a lot of money? Yeah. Okay, so let's put a check right there. So a check on a lot of money, okay? Now, the question and where I think a lot of the frustration is this, is that in order to be successful, Jim, at some point in time, it's not the amount of money you make. And that could be very frustrating to somebody who, like me, believe that the more money I make, the more successful I'm going to become. So why is it that I'm making more money, I'm doing better for myself, but I still wake up every day frustrated and mad? Why do I do that? Okay, what's wrong? In these two quadrants, we already talked about the income is temporary. We talked about the nature of the income being self-driven. So in these two quadrants right here, in order to make a lot of money, Andrew Pappas, what do you have to give up?
A lot of time.
Would everybody agree with time?
Mm-hmm.
See, and that's just the thing right there, because you're right, it is time. But can we take that a little bit further? Can we take that? How do you go further than that? An employee that makes $500,000 a year. What do you think his quality of life is?
Stressful.
I mean, guys, could you imagine that work environment where you make percentage-wise a lot more than most people, but knowing that at any point in time that could be taken away from you? You know, doctors, lawyers, dentists, and people down here, a lot of them have a lot more school. They have a lot more investment into themselves. They become what they feel like is successful down here. They're making a lot of money, but still they have no time. Because actually to make that type of money and your income be self-driven, if we're going to take it a little bit further than time, that next step up is it requires every waking hour we have. It requires our whole life. So at some point in time, aren't we maybe kind of faced with how much of that we're able to give, right? You know, so I think a lot of times the people I talk to when I share Equis, I can start off and I can talk about Equis, and I can talk about the leads, and I can talk about the carriers, and I can talk about the sales system, and I can talk about how great guys like Chris Chalk are. But I don't feel like, for some of you guys sitting out there, Tony, I don't feel like it's doing anything for you. Because unless you understand what each of these quadrants produces, you'll never really know if you're in the quadrant, Val, that's going to actually produce the result you want. So can we all agree on this today? We're all mature enough, and we're all businessmen and women enough where we're not like, guys, I'm not going to get an Equis tattoo. Okay? I don't care how much Andrew texts me on Andrew, I'm not getting one with you. Get one. Okay? And Andrew's probably going to get one. So take that in context, okay? I hope that we're all past the point of business. I hope that we've all gotten into the network marketing stuff enough. I hope we've all been with the insurance IMOs enough to realize that it's not the company that's going to make me successful, okay? I have to get in with a company that is doing things right, for sure. We're going to talk about Equis today. But more importantly than that, I've got to get myself in a position where I'm investing the time in the quadrant that's going to produce the result that I want. Because the result that I want, once I accomplish that result, it's going to allow me to do the things that I love. Is it also okay up here if I tell you that selling insurance isn't my favorite thing? Okay? I like selling insurance, But selling insurance to me is probably very little different than, you know, if you look at a guy like Ray Kroc with McDonald's, although he's been dead and gone for a long time, DeLuca with Subway sandwiches, Monahan with Domino's Pizza. You know, me selling insurance is probably not a lot different than those guys being in a restaurant maybe making a pizza pie. Okay, I don't think we can characterize DeLuca with Subway as, oh, that's the guy who makes subs all the time. Well, you know, I'm sure he's made his share, okay? But what he also did, because if all he did was make subs in one location, he would have been in the S quadrant, wouldn't he? If all he did was make subs in one location, he would have been in the S quadrant. Therefore, he could have made a lot of money, but who would have always been making the subs? How many of you guys were also brought up to believe that self-employment and business ownership were the same thing? Anybody ever thought that? I remember the first time I ever saw that quadrant, that Kiyosaki quadrant, I went, wait a minute, self-employed business owner. Yeah, it's like, isn't that the same thing? Like self-employed? And what he describes in that book is that no, self-employed, people that are successful that make it being self-employed, they're not business owners. These people are actually owned by their business. So they're not business owners, they're owned by their business. Business owners, ironically enough, don't really own a business. They own a business what? They own a business system. And it's that business system, Chris Chalk, and you just kind of talked about it in a roundabout sort of way up here. You had to get in a position that allowed you to start in. You were in this quadrant doing great in sales, but you said if you're in a sword fight, you're the only guy fighting, and you sit down, what happens, right? And so you got yourself in a position here where you started taking your sales system and you started branching out and you found other people that wanted to own and operate their own business, whether it was full-time or part-time, right? That's right. And so the transference of that system has allowed Chris Chalk to now go regional manager, and I would think be making quite a bit of override income and all the things that go along with it. But how awesome is it, Chris, when you woke up and you were just in the S quadrant? When you woke up every Monday, you were unemployed.
That's right.
So every Monday you woke up, it was showtime. Now, just qualifying regional manager, I'm sure that you're still doing S quadrant activities, but how awesome is it every Monday to wake up and realize that based on the network that you've been able to develop, there's a certain amount of passive income that's coming in because you've already established and stabilized those people in business where they're making money. Actually, some of them making more money than they're willing to give up. So how awesome is it to know that if you chose not to do something this week, you would still make some type of income? Amen. Do y'all realize the miracle in that? Nate Maddox, how you doing, man?
Better.
Come on up here real quick, man. You got to make.
I try to keep it somewhere safe. I'm bad about keeping up with small things.
So what we're talking about right now is the Equis opportunity.
Okay.
And we're going to go into sales system. We're going to get Chris Chalk up here. And then I promised everybody that we get to hear your story.
Okay.
I told them a little bit about it, but they want to hear how in the heck you joined. Did you join? I think you joined Equis in like February, March of 2016.
February, March.
So what they want to hear is exactly how you joined in February, March, and what you did to actually earn over 6 figures.
Well, it's fresh on my mind, so I can definitely tell you about it.
So good deal. Good having you here.
All right.
So, and I'll wrap up this part of it, but guys, this is, when I sit down and I talk about the Equis opportunity, I first want to address people's frustration, and I want to let them know that, you know what, we understand the 4 quadrants. We understand when you put you in any one of these 4 quadrants, you start producing a different result in your life. So how many of you guys honestly can say that I'm here today and I'm looking at developing just a new season of my life, and I'm looking at going into Equis and creating a different result than I've ever created before. Can you guys say that? Okay? Because here's the thing, guys, and this sets me up to talk about Equis, is when we hire people, people can start off in the self-employed quadrant day one, and they can take and own and operate their own time, control their own time, and make as much money as they need to make in that quadrant in as little time necessary. See, in the E quadrant, we're kind of like we work for somebody else, so it doesn't matter how efficient we are in a little bit of time, they usually like us to be there. So like if you skip out of work on Wednesday and your boss calls you and says, hey, what's up? Say, hey man, I finished all my work and I just thought I'd take the rest of the week off. That generally doesn't go over well, right? Because they're like, no, we're not paying you to be efficient. We want you to be here don't leave until 5. And if you're ambitious, like 5:02. Anybody ever done that? Hey, clock out at 5:03, and it's like, that's gonna look really good when they look at those. Too many of those strings of 456s. It's like I want to beat the traffic, right? It's incredible that mindset. So we help people start off in the S quadrant, and then, like Nate's going to talk about in his story, and like Chris will talk about today, is the transitioning to taking what's working for you. I mean, Andrew Pappas, will you stand up real quick? Tell him your name.
Andrew Pappas.
And the countrified is Pappas, sorry. Now, Andrew, you work full time.
Yes, I do.
I mean, how awesome is it to be able to start off part-time? Because Ollie hadn't told you like you got to quit your job. As a matter of fact, he's probably encouraging you to stay with it, until you've built up a lot of maybe 6 months of income and things like that. But how awesome is it to be able to make the amount of money you're making working part-time?
It is awesome.
So if somebody else is in this room and they're looking at maybe getting started part-time, can they do it?
Definitely.
Okay.
When you say part-time, what do you mean? How many hours a week?
My part-time is I run 2 appointments to 4 appointments during the week, and then I run final expense for 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday. That's about it right now.
How much did you make last week, Andrew?
As long as everything gets approved, I should make about $2,500.
Your full-time is 9 to 5,
Yeah.
Monday through Friday.
I made last week what it'll take me almost a whole month at my full-time job.
Isn't that awesome?
Great.
Did anybody have anybody invited that didn't come that you wish heard that?
Yep.
I was always sitting there thinking, because everybody that Ollie ever invited came, and I was sitting there going, man, I got 100 people I invited that should have heard that, right? I don't want you guys to miss this, because I'm going to tell you something. You can come on board with Equis Financial, and if you want to succeed in the S quadrant and you want to go out there, let's say that you want to go out there and earn $100,000 a year, and you want to work 2 to 3 days a week. Do you guys understand that y'all can accomplish that here? Dan, absolutely. And so how many of you guys that maybe have a full-time job, it would be a dream for you to be able to start off with Equis Financial and maybe within the next 8 to 10 to 12 months, develop the skill level where you can work 2 to 3 days a week, maybe every now and then a 4th day, and make consistently over 6-figure income. There you go. Absolutely, and you can do that. And for those of you guys that do want to transition, maybe you're at the point right now, self-employed wise, where you're making that amount of money. But you know what? At some point in time, working the 2 to 3 days a week and waking up every Monday unemployed, it's like, man, I don't want to go serve families. As awesome as it is to serve families, I'd rather not go serve them this week and my income not take a hit. Well, the only way to do that, don't get frustrated at that. See, don't sit there and think, well, I've done something wrong because I'm working 2 to 3 days a week and I'm only making 6 figures. Right? Now we say that, we laugh, but do y'all know how easy it is to get in the habit of making 6 figures, working 2-3 days a week, and then all of a sudden get sour about that? Right? We forget what it's like to work 5-6 days a week for $30,000, right? You know, but there's different levels, right? But that's why I don't want y'all to miss this. Because the opportunity at Equis Financial, it realizes that. And the thing about it is that no matter what result that you want to create, we're going to be with you to help you create that result. I was reminded of a story. And this kind of sums up this part of it. This sums up the frustration that people feel. There was a guy, and I use this analogy because, like, where I'm from in, like, redneck country down south, I mean, all we have is, like, cornfields and tobacco fields. And do y'all have that stuff up here?
We have cornfields.
Cornfields? Okay, well, so let's think, and this will be an incredibly simple story, which you'll figure out in the first 20 seconds, but just understand, even though how simple it is, how many people we pass every single day that's stuck in this very simple story. But if you take somebody and this person has grown up, let's say this person's name is John, and this person is brought up and all he's ever taught is how to plant corn. That's all he's ever taught. And John becomes very good at planting corn because his dad planted corn, his granddad planted corn. That's all they were, corn farmers. But at some point in time in John's life, he got a little tired of corn. And he started seeing other people in life that went out there in the fields and worked, and they had a different crop come up. Call it tobacco, call it beans, call it whatever. And I would sit there and look at tobacco, and I would go, wow, well, that's pretty. It's got leaves on it. It's, you know, you do different things with it. It's just a different result doing similar activities. And so what I started doing was I started secretly writing my goals down. Anybody in a success circle has ever heard of writing your goals down? Right? Okay. So I wrote my goals down, and guess what I wrote down? I want tobacco. And so I went out there next year and I planted my corn because that's what I knew how to do. And I was hoping all year, Kara, that I would have tobacco come up, but what would come up? It's an incredible, simple story, so bear with me. So this next year, not only did I write my goal down that I wanted tobacco, I actually saw on a billboard, I was driving around the metro roadways here in Detroit, and I saw a billboard that said, success event. What's the name of like a, where they play basketball here?
Little Caesars Arena.
Little Caesars Arena. So there's success event, Little Caesars Arena. And you could go down there, you could pay $200 and you could go to this success event, and Colin Powell and Zig Ziglar and all these guys are going to be teaching. And all of a sudden I see up there, oh my gosh. So I'll go to that event, and to be sure, they'll teach me how to actually have tobacco. So I go to that event, and I spend 2 days of my life and money that I don't have to go to that event. And Mario, I come out of that event, and I go out there, and did I start planting tobacco? No, but I planted corn. And so I had my goals written down. I had all this excitement from the event, and what did I have come up?
Corn.
And so the third year, I went and took a time management class. So not only did I have my goal written down, not only was I fired up about going down the wrong road faster, now I was more efficient at creating what I didn't want. In this painfully simplistic story, can you guys see where most people are in our world? And they really don't understand, Val, that in order to have tobacco, A lot of that's good to know, but in order for me to have tobacco, all I had to do was to start investing something different. All I had to do was start doing something different. And when I look at this quadrant up here, it's very simple. If I want a different result, then I have to understand which quadrant I'm working in. Does that make sense, Jim Bosch? And if I'm working in the quadrant that produces the result that I want, well, that's a lot of times when the opportunity and preparedness meet and the right result is created. But how many people wake up every single morning, they get in traffic out there because they're still going out there thinking that it's the amount of money or it's the next promotion. It's the next bonus that I'm going to get that's going to create that success. And it's simply not true. So let's talk about Equis Financial. I don't want to not cover anything about Equis. But Equis Financial launched in 2016. It actually launched in 2015. But Barry Clarkson was offered the opportunity to become president and CEO of Equis Financial. And so as far as Equis, the way we know it today, it started January 15, 2016. And that's when Barry Clarkson became president and CEO. Equis Financial, they've got 3 different office locations. One is in Lynchburg, Virginia. One is in Dayton, Ohio. And the other one is in Asheville, North Carolina. And they all do different things out of there. The lead department is headed up by a lady named Kristen Brockman. Anybody work with Kristen Brockman? Fantastic. Agent services, John Barlow. Actually, John is from the state of Michigan. Moved down to Asheville to head up agent services. New business is headed up by Carla Yates. Executive training. How many of you guys know Bill Martin and Rob Jones? So executive training is headed up by those 2 guys. Phenomenal. Advanced markets, index universal life and fixed annuities is headed up by Pete Lee. And chief of staff and head of all of the technology development is a guy named Glenn Davies. How many of you guys, when you every time that you log on to Equis Financial, how many of you guys love the Fortune 500 feel that Equis already has to it? I mean, it's phenomenal. And now that didn't come cheap. Barry Clarkson invested of his own money. He invested right at $1 million in 2016 for the technology platform, and it's not slowing down at all. The markets that Equis Financial is in is number 1, our chief market is mortgage protection. Second market that we're getting involved in right now at a much bigger level than we even are right now is final expense. And then number 3, they are the advanced markets, and that's index universal life along with fixed annuities. And we'll talk more about those as we go along today. Equis Financial provides sales opportunities we call leads. Anybody ever been a part of an insurance company or an insurance platform that instead of having leads, their marketing tool was Project 100? Like, anybody know what a Project 100 is? Okay. You write down like 100 names and numbers of your best friends and family, and that's who you're going to go sell to? Yeah. And so Equis Financial, we actually have leads. And in the mortgage protection arena, we service middle income America. And every single time that a new house is purchased or a refinance occurs, there is a file created. We mail to that data, and I'd say on average we get between a 1.5% to 2% response rate on that. And the client is able to respond 3 different ways. And I'm going to pass these around. These are the 3 ways that a client can respond. When we mail them a letter, they can fill out personal information, and they can mail it back in. Okay, so this is called a mailback, and if you guys can pass that around right there. Also, when we mail out a letter, they can respond via the phone. They can pick up the phone, they can call, and then that's what that looks like. If you'll pass that around. And then they can respond via the internet. So 3 different ways of clients responding, and I'll pass that around. If I could just make sure I get those back, that would be great. Equis Financial also has partnerships. We've got Foresters, we've got Mutual of Omaha, we've got Transamerica, we've got Columbian Financial Group, we've got Royal Neighbors. We've got a lot of different partnerships. We're talking about $30 billion companies that pay us to move products. So every single person sitting in this room, you're going to get paid, Servio, to do what? To move their products. Their products become solutions to our clients' problems, and we simply go and we communicate that, and we're paid very handsomely to do that. And then as I close up this part of it, and as we get into the actual mortgage protection sales, let me make sure you guys understand on an average sale at Equis Financial, the average sale is $1,082 in annualized premium. So annualized premium, $1,082. What's that per month? Anybody got a calculator in here? I'm sorry? Is it around like $80-some a month?
$90.
$90 a month? Okay, so when we go sit down with a client, which Chris Chalk is going to talk about that coming up here in a second. When we sit down with a client, our average sale in the mortgage protection arena is around $85 to $90 a month. And that annualized premium is $1,082. And let's say that you're starting off at a 70%. I'm going to pass these out here. I won't pass them out right now, but we're going to pass out the whole comp plan to you. But you're going to get paid on the annualized premium. When you walk out of your client's house, they're going to have chosen a product that is most likely going to cost them around $85 to $90 a month. That'll be pulled out of their bank account. Okay, direct deposit. I'm sorry. Bank draft, $90 a month. And if you're starting off at the 70% level, which is the lowest that you can start with Equis Financial, what is 1,082 times 70%? $757.40. And you're gonna that's how much money you're gonna make off of an average sale at Equis. But you're going to get advanced 75%. How much is it? 568.05. So you're going to get advanced 568.05, and then 25%. 25% will come in months 10, 11, and 12. So I love talking to my new people as they're getting started with Equis Financial. I love letting them know that there is a salary that's going to come with Equis Financial. Their salary starts month 10, 11, and 12. How many of you guys have been actually out there consistently producing over 10, 11 months, and you've actually personally participated in months 10, 11, 12 income? It's pretty awesome, isn't it? Just to start getting deposits in your account, that's like, man, that's business that I wrote over 10 months ago. So, Andrew, have you been in long enough to experience that? Okay, be pretty neat.
Yeah.
And but that'll come in. So, $568. Now, this is off of a lead that you spent an A lead at the 70% level. Is that $41?
Yep.
So, 568 minus $21. So we're at 547.05. So part-time, Andrew, going out there and writing two a week. You made how much last week?
2,500.
2,500. How many did you write?
5.
5. On an average, though, that's not bad, is it? 547. If we were able to go out there and do one a week, guys, if you look at a couple $1,000s a month to the average person that's working a full-time job that is looking for some additional income, with $2,000 a month, would that typically be life-changing for them? Somebody full-time, Dan, on an average, on a per week basis, how many apps do you average?
When I was running full-time, would be about 3 to 5.
About 3 to 5 applications a week, and Dan certainly had moved up way past the 70% level, but 3 to 5 applications a week. How many of you guys, even at the 70% level, going out there and making an average of $1,500 to $2,000 a week income, would that change a lot of people's lives? So before I bring up Chris, and we move away from the Equis opportunity, the thing that I'm going to challenge you guys to do, and this may be hard for some of you, but for the ones that this is hard for, y'all are the ones that I want to zero more in on. I challenge you to dust off a lot of what life has told you to suppress, and that's dreams and that's goals. Because do you realize that not every dream and goal can be accomplished with just making more money? But do you realize that probably 85 to 90% can be? How quick can your life change with Equis Financial? You got a guy in the back of the room back there, Nate Maddox, that got started in February, March timeframe 2016, and was able to go out there and make over $100,000 a year. Guys, again, from a real success story, somebody that I know, I think that's powerful. So personal sales at Equis Financial, the building opportunity at Equis Financial. How many of you guys right now think that you may know somebody that's interested in making money part-time? How many of you guys think that you may know somebody that's interested in maybe a career change? Well, before we end today, we will talk very quickly about how to approach those people and how not to shove it down their throat and how not to make them feel any less than if they're not interested. But we do understand that right people at the right time, it does make for a really cool activity called building a business, right? Because I can't think of anything more fun than building a business with people that want to be successful, people that want to make money, and people that are very interested in what we're doing. But I also can't think of anything more frustrating, Sharon, or something more like going to the dentist and getting a tooth pulled than trying to go out there and build with people that aren't interested in what we're doing, or they don't have a lot of ambition. And it's not my job to make that. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to roll right into the mortgage protection sale.